Dawn shattered the horizon over Tel Aviv with a thunderclap. The sky bruised in deep purples and stormy greys. The city, usually alive with the first light, was frozen in a tense, unnatural silence. Only the distant rumble of thunder and a heavy sense of dread broke the stillness, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, streaks of fire ripped through the morning sky. Missiles arced overhead, their trails burning bright against the storm clouds. Anti-missile defenses erupted in bursts of flame, intercepting rockets mid-air. Each explosion, a violent punctuation mark echoing across the rooftops. Air raid sirens screamed, their piercing wails ricocheting off empty streets. Windows rattled and shook as explosions shattered the fragile calm, shockwaves rippling through neighborhoods just beginning to stir. Day 13 of the US-Israel versus Iran war had arrived. Louder, more chaotic, and more perilous than any before. Military vehicles thundered down the avenues, soldiers tense and alert as the city braced for the unknown horrors the day might bring. Across the world, television screens flickered with urgent news. Breaking bulletins scrolled relentlessly, families huddled together in living rooms. Eyes wide, hearts pounding as they watched the crisis unfold in real time. In Haifa, a barrage of missiles struck with terrifying precision. Tehran's skyline erupted in fire, plumes of smoke spiraling into the dawn. The violence was no longer confined. It was everywhere, spreading like wildfire. In Bahrain, oil facilities blazed uncontrollably, flames clawing at the sky, thick black smoke billowing for miles. The world's energy lifelines were under siege, the stakes rising with every burning barrel. Animated maps on news broadcasts flared with fire icons, stretching from the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf. Satellite images revealed a grim mosaic, explosions dotting the region, borders dissolving in chaos. In city after city, civilians raced for shelter. Some sprinting through streets, others huddled in basements or crowded bomb shelters. Many hadn't slept in days, their faces hollowed by exhaustion and fear, eyes searching for hope in the darkness. In Beirut, tragedy struck yet again. Another hospital, once a sanctuary, was reduced to chaos. Shattered glass, twisted metal, blood staining the corridors. Emergency workers moved through the wreckage, desperate to find survivors amid the devastation. In southern Iran, the morning sky was choked with grey-black smoke from bombed oil refineries. The acrid stench of burning fuel hung heavy, a stark reminder of the war's relentless reach. This was day 13, a day many feared would mark the point of no return. The scars of war were everywhere, shattered buildings, haunted faces, hope flickering in the shadows. As the world watched, breathless and anxious, the conflict threatened to spiral beyond control, shaking the very foundations of the region and sending shockwaves across the globe. It began in darkness, just under 2 weeks ago, when the world's fragile sense of normalcy was shattered. In the stillness of midnight, cities that had learned to live with tension were suddenly engulfed in chaos. The world watched, breath held, as the unthinkable unfolded before their eyes. But this war did not erupt from nowhere. Its roots are tangled in decades of suspicion, broken promises, and bitter enmity. Each protest, every failed negotiation, every handshake that hid a clenched fist. These were the seeds, sown long before the first missile ever pierced the night sky. For years, Israel and Iran circled each other like wary predators. Their rivalry played out in shadowy operations, fiery speeches, and proxy wars fought on distant soil. Every gesture was scrutinized, every word weighed, as both sides braced for the moment when suspicion would tip into open conflict. The United States, Israel's steadfast ally, stood as both shield and sword. American warships prowled the Persian Gulf, a silent warning. Behind closed doors, diplomats worked tirelessly, aware that a single misstep could ignite the region. Then, on the night of February 29th, the world's patience snapped. Sirens screamed through the darkness. Command centers erupted into frantic activity. In that instant, the delicate balance was lost, and the countdown to war began. Israeli intelligence sounded the alarm. Iran was moving advanced missiles into Lebanon, arming Hezbollah with weapons capable of striking deep into Israeli cities. The threat was no longer theoretical. It was real, immediate, and terrifying. The United States echoed these warnings, declaring that a red line had been crossed. Officials spoke with grave urgency, their words rippling across the globe. The world's gaze locked onto the region, waiting for the next move in a deadly game. Before dawn, Israeli jets roared into the sky, striking targets in Syria and Lebanon. Their mission: to destroy the missile convoys before they could be unleashed. Explosions lit up the horizon, and uncertainty swept across the Middle East. The United States escalated, launching cruise missiles at suspected Iranian Revolutionary Guard bases in western Iran. The strikes were swift, calculated, and devastating, sending shockwaves through capitals from Washington to Tehran. Iran's response was immediate and furious. Leaders in Tehran condemned the attacks as acts of war, vowing vengeance. The nation rallied, united by outrage and fear, as the government promised to defend its people at any cost. Within hours, Iranian missiles streaked through the night, targeting Israeli air bases and US positions in Iraq. Tehran insisted it was acting in self-defense, forced to retaliate against what it called unprovoked aggression. In Washington, officials gathered in crisis rooms, faces etched with worry. They argued that their actions were necessary to protect allies, to prevent a catastrophe that now seemed all but inevitable. Every decision carried the weight of history. As dawn broke, the world awoke to a new reality. From Tel Aviv to Tehran, ordinary people stared at their screens in disbelief, their lives upended in a single night. The war that had haunted their dreams was now a devastating truth, one that would shape the fate of nations. The opening days of war erupted with relentless violence. Cities across the region were rocked by thunderous explosions, chaos tearing through the night. Sirens screamed, families dashed for shelter, and emergency vehicles tore through shattered streets, their lights slicing through the darkness in a desperate race against time. Israel wasted no time. Fighter jets launched a ferocious assault on Iranian-linked militias in Syria and Lebanon. The skies above Damascus and Beirut became battlegrounds. Jets roared, explosions shattered the silence, and entire neighborhoods were engulfed in flames. The United States escalated the conflict further, deploying B-52 bombers deep into Iranian territory. Precision strikes hammered air defense systems and military strongholds, aiming to cripple Iran's ability to strike back. The stakes soared with every detonation. Iran retaliated with fury. Waves of drones and ballistic missiles streaked through the night, slamming into Israeli cities, Haifa Ashkelon, even Tel Aviv. Firefighters battled infernos at industrial complexes, while terrified civilians scrambled for survival. American military bases in Iraq and the Gulf came under heavy fire. Missiles and rockets rained down, reducing installations to smouldering ruins and sending columns of smoke billowing skyward. The sense of vulnerability was palpable. Across the region, Iran's vast network of allies and proxies surged into action. Militias mobilized with alarming speed, eager to join the escalating fight and strike at Western and Israeli targets. Hezbollah unleashed a relentless barrage from southern Lebanon. Rocket after rocket lit up the night, forcing thousands of Israelis into bomb shelters and pushing the conflict to new heights. In Iraq, Iranian-backed militias struck hard. US convoys ambushed, vital oil facilities set ablaze. Flames devoured critical infrastructure, threatening energy supplies and deepening the crisis. Yemen's Houthi rebels escalated the chaos, launching drones at commercial ships in the Red Sea. Global trade routes were thrown into jeopardy, while urban centres descended into brutal street battles. Airstrikes pummeled Beirut's southern suburbs, Hezbollah's stronghold, while Basra's vital oil hub in Iraq burned, sending shockwaves through the region's fragile economy. Iranian missiles struck deep inside Israel, igniting factories and crippling a key airbase in the Negev desert. Emergency crews raced against time, battling destruction and saving lives amid relentless attacks. The conflict spiraled outward. Front lines expanded rapidly, military vehicles surged through city streets, and the sense of urgency grew with every passing hour. No place felt safe. As the world watched in shock, both sides hurled accusations, fueling a war of words that echoed across global headlines. The hope for peace faded, replaced by the grim reality of a region on the brink. On day 13, the war has erupted far beyond its original borders, engulfing the region in chaos. Overnight, Iranian missiles streaked across the sky, pounding Israeli airfields and igniting oil terminals in the United Arab Emirates, turning distant cities into blazing battlegrounds. Israeli jets roared in retaliation, unleashing waves of airstrikes on western Iran and southern Lebanon as explosions lit up city skylines. US drones hunted targets across Iraq and Syria, striking militia compounds and widening the conflict's reach. The Gulf itself has transformed into a vast war zone, bristling with warships and military might. Iranian speedboats and hidden mines brought shipping to a standstill in the Strait of Hormuz, choking a vital artery of global trade. Flames and thick black smoke rose from refineries in Bahrain and Kuwait as emergency crews battled relentless blazes. In Saudi Arabia, the night sky was streaked with missile trails as air defenses intercepted incoming rockets over Dammam. The violence has spilled into new frontiers. Bahrain, Kuwait, and even Jordan now bear the scars of strikes and falling missile debris as the conflict's shadow stretches ever wider. For millions of civilians, Day 13 is not just a headline, it's a living nightmare. Each face in the crowd carries a story of loss, fear, and uncertainty. In the darkness, emergency responders search for survivors. The United Nations reports hundreds killed overnight, each number a shattered family, a life cut short in Lebanon, Iran, and Israel. Hospitals in Beirut and Haifa are overflowing. Doctors work through exhaustion, treating wounded children and comforting grieving parents, even as supplies dwindle and buildings crumble around them. In Tehran, children cling to their mothers in subway stations, flinching at every siren. Their eyes reflect a fear no child should ever know. Families flee with only what they can carry: memories, hope, and each other. From Beirut to Basra to Tehran, parents whisper reassurances they barely believe themselves. Highways are jammed with cars, belongings piled high, children sleeping atop suitcases. Every mile is a gamble for safety. Aid workers do what they can, but warn that the needs are overwhelming. The threat of a massive refugee crisis grows by the hour. In southern Lebanon alone, over 800,000 people have left everything behind. They search for shelter, for food, for a moment of peace, often finding none. The pain knows no borders. In every city, every camp, every shelter, the human cost of war is written on the faces of the innocent, reminding us that suffering is universal and hope, though fragile, endures. As the 13th day of war unfolds, world leaders are gripped by uncertainty. Tension fills every diplomatic chamber. The United Nations urgently calls for a ceasefire, but consensus remains elusive. France and Germany push for immediate peace talks, their voices echoing across Europe. Yet the path to negotiation is fraught with obstacles. China and Russia issue stark warnings. The conflict teeters on the edge of uncontrollable escalation. In Washington, demands for Iran to halt its attacks grow louder. Tehran, defiant, vows to fight on. Diplomatic standoffs intensify. Meanwhile, global markets convulse. Investors scramble as volatility surges and uncertainty deepens. Oil prices skyrocket past $100 a barrel. The Strait of Hormuz, vital to the world's energy supply, now stands at risk. Stock markets plunge across Asia, Europe, and the United States. The financial world holds its breath. Airlines ground flights throughout the Middle East, amplifying the sense of crisis. Prices for basic goods surge from London to Mumbai to Cairo. Every nation watches, uncertain of what tomorrow will bring. The Strait of Hormuz is a slender artery, its significance colossal. The world's energy lifeline pulses through this fragile corridor. Each day, nearly 1/5 of global oil supply risks everything as it passes through these perilous waters. Now the strait is transformed. Mines lurk beneath the surface, missiles threaten from the shadows, and warships prowl relentlessly. The economic stakes have never been higher. Iran's vow to seal the strait hangs over the world economy like a sword. The threat is no longer theoretical. Already, flames have consumed at least 3 tankers, each incident sending shockwaves through global markets. The United States and its allies scramble to secure the lanes, but every maneuver is a gamble. The risk escalates by the hour. Insurance premiums have soared, crippling shipping companies and forcing many vessels to abandon their routes. Strategic ports, Dubai, Manama, now stand eerily silent, their docks deserted, commerce stalled. Should the strait close, experts warn of a global economic catastrophe. Oil prices spiraling out of reach, millions plunged into crisis. The world stands on the brink. The world stands on edge. Diplomats issue dire warnings. Disaster looms larger than ever before. The conflict is no longer contained. Borders blur as more nations are pulled into the chaos. Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait and Jordan reel from sudden strikes. No one feels safe. Militants in Syria and Yemen ignite new fronts. NATO scrambles, holding urgent emergency sessions. Russian and Chinese warships cut through the Indian Ocean, signaling a dangerous new phase. Experts watch in alarm, their voices trembling. What comes next could change everything. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, the world's oil lifeline snaps. Markets would spiral. Economies could collapse. Should Israel or the US strike deeper into Iran, the regime might unleash devastation or implode entirely. If Hezbollah storms Israel, southern Lebanon could become a wasteland, civilians fleeing for their lives. The world holds its breath, fearing a war that could spiral beyond control. The stakes have never been higher. On day 13, the world lingers in a shadow of uncertainty. Flames still haunt Tehran, Haifa, Bahrain, echoes of a conflict with no clear end. Refugees gather in the darkness, caught between hope and dread, wondering if tonight brings silence or more devastation. Leaders speak of peace, yet their eyes betray the weight of war's shadow. Markets tremble, prayers rise, soldiers brace for what may come. The future is a question mark, etched on every anxious face, in every silent street. Will a ceasefire hold, or will the storm cross new borders? Will oil flow, or will the world be plunged into darkness and scarcity? The only constant is doubt, a world suspended, breath held, waiting. What began with a single night of fire now casts a long, haunting shadow across the globe. This is day 13, a day of reflection, of questions without answers, as the world waits, haunted and uncertain, for what comes next.